Good morning, and welcome to our second preparedness briefing involving safety and security leading into the trial of Derek Chauvin over the coming weeks and months. Last week, we committed to giving you ongoing and very regular briefings. Several of the individuals that are here with me today you've previously seen, and there are others that are new. But once again, across the board, we are united in our priorities around safety, retaining and protecting First Amendment rights, and ensuring that we continue to deliver our core city services through this trial. With the weather warming up, we fully expect our Minneapolis residents to engage in the time-honored tradition of their First Amendment rights and speech, and we want to make sure that that right to protest is protected in every way, shape, and form. We understand this to be a very important part of the grieving process and also an essential part of our democratic process. Looking ahead, I want to reiterate some of the same sentiment that we shared last week, which is in Minneapolis, we are open for business. People should go about their normal day-to-day activities as usual, and of course we would like you to continue to patron our local Minneapolis businesses because they certainly need the assistance and we want to support them. But that doesn't mean that there won't be changes in how we operate over the coming weeks and months. We know that there are many residents throughout our city that rely on public transit on a day-to-day basis. And while there will be changes and at times interruptions, we want to make sure that everyone has full access to the transit system that they rely on every single day. And we're glad to be joined by the Deputy Chief of Operations of Metro Transit, and Brian Funk, who's going to provide some information as to what to expect, as well as where to go to get very regular updates. As we mentioned in the previous briefing, our Public Works Department has been consistently working with other jurisdictions to ensure that there are as few issues with traffic as possible. We know that there will be certain days and times where there will be increases in traffic downtown, but there won't be major changes, at least in the very near future. However, beginning on March 1st, there will be a closure of 6th Street downtown from 3rd to 4th Avenues. So again, that's 6th Street downtown from 3rd to 4th Avenues, and that's also the location that goes underneath the Hennepin County Government Center. Also, Deputy Chief Fors will be able to provide a little bit more information as to what to expect in terms of security update, as well as the work that is ongoing with our other multi-jurisdictional partners, ranging from mutual aid to the National Guard at the state of Minnesota. And also, we're moving forward full speed ahead with a lot of the community relationships that we've had, and we look to be formalizing a lot of those relationships in the coming weeks. That work is conducted by our Neighborhood and Community Relations Department, our Neighborhood and Community Outreach Team, as well as our Office of Violence Prevention, and Director Sasha Cotton will be here to speak about that very shortly. And as a reminder, finally, to residents that are within a half-mile radius of the intersection of 38th and Chicago, you should be receiving a survey as to what you'd like the intersection to look like in the long term and short term in approximately the coming week. And so be on the lookout for that. And as I've mentioned earlier, the intersection itself will remain closed to vehicular traffic while we will be bolstering city services ranging from 911 to EMS to, of course, snow clearance and street maintenance on an ongoing basis. So for these and more updates, make sure to follow the City of Minneapolis on social media, as well as tuning into the regular briefings that we will have here in the future. Collaboration here is going to be very key to a multifaceted approach that represents the needs and interests of many different communities throughout our city. And you all, as members of our Minneapolis and Regional Press Corps, are playing a very important role at disseminating information. We want to make sure these regular briefings are consistent. They will, of course, become more regular as the trial progresses, and I just very much appreciate your work. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Deputy Chief Fors, who can provide an update on the safety and security and some of the work with our multi-jurisdictional partners. Deputy Chief.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm Deputy Chief Eric Forrest from the Minneapolis Police Department. I'd like to touch a little bit on some of our preparations in terms of prevention for our commercial corridors. Additionally, some of the fortifications that are ongoing and will be going up around key infrastructure and our police precincts. And touch base a little bit on what you might see downtown during this week. I would like to say our plan for the commercial corridors, our planning over the past several months has been very intentional and thoughtful regarding our city's commercial and business corridors. The main focus is prevention. Prevention of property damage, arson, and looting. Our business owners and residents along our city's main commercial corridors, whether that's Lake Street, Lynn Lake, Washington, Broadway, Hennepin, or the Nicollet Mall, can expect to see high visibility patrols that would include local police and our National Guard soldiers. The Minneapolis Police Department, along with representatives from the city's Office of Violence Prevention and Neighborhood Community Relations departments, have also been engaged with our business and nonprofit corridors, making them aware of our prevention efforts, as well as listening and addressing any concerns that they have. This communication with our city's commercial and business corridor partners will continue now, during, and post-trial. You will also see additional fortification efforts going up around key infrastructure and police precincts over this week and the weeks to come. This is to ensure the safety and security of key infrastructure and also to make sure that the continuity of operations can continue. Again, this is about maintaining safety and security and ensuring that key infrastructure can still be utilized and is still functional during key periods of time. Our intent is to maintain a safe environment for people to exercise their First Amendment rights. During this week, people downtown may see a small representation from the Minnesota National Guard. This is nothing unusual. Ahead of deployment, they are here to conduct different tests to ensure interoperability in relations to their radio communications. So if people see the National Guard out and about downtown, this is standard, and this is, as I said before, interoperability testing that they do prior to deploying their personnel. With that, I will now turn this over to Brian Funk from Metro Transit, who will then provide updates from his department. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Again, my name is Brian Funk. I'm the Deputy Chief Operating Officer for the bus system at Metro Transit, and I'm here today to highlight a few things from our perspective about what our customers can expect moving forward over the next 6 to 8 weeks or so. First and foremost, we've been planning, and much like you've heard from the city and the mayor, is we've been using this time to our advantage to be able to come through and identify what are the most likely scenarios that we need to prepare for to ensure that we can keep our employees and customers safe, respect the First Amendment rights that may be exercised, as well as maintain continuous operations. And so we do have those plans for both bus and rail, and we're linked in, again, with the Unified Command. And so under Operation Safety Net, Metro Transit, both operations and Metro Transit Police, are at the table to ensure that we have the latest and best information so that we're able to exercise those plans and communicate with all involved to ensure, again, that we're able to maintain the operations and maintain safety for our employees and for our customers. At this point, Metro Transit continues to be exercising the best advice for traveling in a time of pandemic, and so masks are required whenever you're using public transportation. That's non-negotiable. That's something that we take very seriously for everyone's safety. Second, we do continue to have onboard limitations for passenger loading, and so that's something that people should plan accordingly before starting their trip and understand that when completing those journeys. But I do want to say, again, we are open for business. We're going to continue to serve our customers and the residents who depend on us day in and day out. I'm proud of the team that we have at Metro Transit. I'm proud of our bus and train operators in particular who have stayed behind the wheel and in those vehicles day after day, for months now. So finally, I'll just close and say that we do have communication plans, and there's three primary ways for customers and everyone who's interested to be able to stay on top of those changes. First and foremost, the metrotransit.org website. We are dedicating space on that page to keep everyone updated with the latest and greatest information. We also encourage our customers to sign up for rider alerts. Those are information pieces that are pushed directly to you based on information that you need to know, so route-specific information when changes do take place. And finally, our social media accounts are managed in real time, and we're able to keep everyone updated on what's happening across our system. And so with that, we'll of course be linked together. We'll continue to participate with the City of Minneapolis on their response, and we're really happy to be part of the solution here. So thank you very much. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Eric Hansen from CPED. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Eric Hansen, E-R-I-K-H-A-N-S-E-N. I'm the city's Director of Economic Policy and Development. And I want to echo some of the things the mayor has said and the deputy chief about Minneapolis is open for business. And as we get into this uncertain time around the trial, we want to remember the businesses that have been struggling over the last 13 months through the pandemic and the events of last year. Whether you're thinking about spring cleanups and hitting the hardware stores like North End Hardware at Penn and Lowry, or getting your bike tuned up at Angry Catfish on 28th Avenue, or hopefully getting a meal before a in-person Twins game this spring in the Warehouse District, please consider shopping local first. They need it. I want to thank the business associations, technical service providers, and others that we've been working with to prepare some of this information for businesses as they get ready for, again, this uncertain time. We want to remind people what we said last week about businesses getting prepared and having a plan for the next few months. Ready.gov is a site that will help with preparedness plans and help with questions about what businesses should do. So we encourage people to go to that site and prepare an individual plan for businesses. In addition to that, businesses might think about physical measures to barricade their storefronts. The city has allowed boarding if they choose to, and temporary or more permanent metal security doors. You can talk to the city directly through 311 to get more information about that. We've been encouraged to have businesses check in with their insurance companies about their policies, and not simply to see if their policies are up to date, but to really go into the policies and what is covered with respect to that. The city has some resources available if businesses need some support, and we also are working with the State Department of Commerce, which also oversees the insurance agencies, and that's through our Business Technical Assistance Program. We want people to think about sensitive documents that they might keep in their places of business, and if can, either upload those to the cloud or bring those to another location. And then if people are looking for security plans and security officers, we always encourage you to take a licensed security company, as they will have the proper training insurance for protection. We will continue to update our information, and we'll be producing more details on our website soon through frequently asked questions, and we'll continue to work with our business associations and technical service providers and businesses about more information as we get closer to the trial and through the trial situation. And with that, I'd like to thank you, and then turn it over to Sasha Cotton, the Director of the Office of Violence Prevention, to talk more about the community.
Good morning. I am Sasha Cotton, the Director of the Minneapolis Office of Violence Prevention, here to give some updates about the ways that we're thinking about supporting community during the trial. First, we're working in close partnership with Neighborhood and Community Relations, as has been mentioned before, to make sure that there is two-way communication between communities and the city. We recognize that a great deal of trauma was experienced during the events of last year, and we want to do our best to mitigate some of those challenges. And part of that is really having good communication on the ground, both with community members who are lifting up their First Amendment rights, but also with those in business corridors and in community organizations that have fear about potential unrest. We are in the process of developing some guidance, some documents that will provide guidance on groups that want to assemble and get together to provide community watch groups or patrols, and those things should be available in the coming weeks. We are also today going before the POGO committee to get some resources designed to help identify groups and fund them to do community outreach, de-escalation, and support in community. We recognize that last year a number of groups assembled on their own, and we want to make sure that groups who are doing that kind of work are in direct coordination with the city, and that to the degree that we can, some of those groups are being paid to provide that level of support. And so we're excited about that opportunity to really pull community partners together to provide the support that is needed. We are also looking at creating some healing spaces during the trial, and we'll have further details about what that will look like, but we are in the process of working to identify locations where people might be able to safely come together, of course with social distancing and masks, to heal, grieve, and process any trauma or anxiety that they might have in relationship to the trial and any additional events. And so I think that concludes my statements, and at this time I will turn it back over to the mayor to open things up for questions.
Thank you, Director. Questions?